I could care less.
Tied into his salary for 4 years.
First of all, understand something. When you're giving up first-round picks, if you are a quality team in playoff contention, it really doesn't mean that much. That's number one.
We really like the players on our team, confident in this group of players, but the right move wasn't there, and it's a thoughtful and tricky calculus at times when the trade deadline is upon us.
We want to build sustainable Lakers excellence. We looked long and hard and did a lot of work at seeing if there were ways to increase the overall roster talent this offseason. And the right move didn't present itself that leads to long-term Lakers excellence and improving our team this season. We'll pull the trigger.
Your Los Angeles Lakers need to make a trade. And they've been touting that since a year now, you could say. And the Lakers have done this thing where they say sustainable Lakers excellence. Or let's say we have to be smart about it if a deal appears to manifest itself. Those are not words you want to hear if you're a fan, specifically if you see this team and be like, we are close. We are close. We're now at the recording of this video. We are now 5th in the conference. We're actually in the middle of the whole plethora of teams that are actually competing. So what does that mean? Why as a fan base are we clamoring for the Lakers to do something? And it's simple. Anthony Davis and LeBron James still got it. This duo is not forgotten. It's not. They still have the juice necessary to kind of contend. People see it. The eye test, you see it. LeBron James, yes, he can be a little bit on and off during the whole regular season. And you expect that he's going to be 40 years old in December. And it's just part of having LeBron James on your team. But when he's engaged, when he's on, you see it. You saw it in the Timberwolves game. You saw it in the Kings game, the Sacramento game. And for all intents and purposes, you see those two play at a high level. They're healthy. They're doing everything they can to the point where they're doing more than they need to because of the roster. The roster right now, what Rob Pelinka and the front office has done is compile a roster that's incomplete. So, if it's incomplete, what can the Lakers do? Again, if you want to be a serious team, if you want to be a contender, you have to pay the price. Be it whatever it is, be it if it's going for Levine, if it's going for Brandon Ingram, and we're gonna dive into that. But here's the thought. Lakers have different positions that they need to fill. Some of them could be filled by health, and that's fine. For instance, if they need a true defender, then if they're optimistic about Vando can actually come in and help them. And if Vando comes in around January, probably end of January or somewhere between, hey, you just gained something in return. But are we a Vando away from being a contender? No. Christian Wood and Jackson Hayes. Are we a Christian Wood and Jackson Hayes away from being a contender? No. It would help, definitely, because I think Christian Wood, even with his injuries that he's sustained, even Hayes with his ankle injury, when they do come back, it will be much better than Koloko. But it's not to the degree where you're like, this isn't a contender. So you have two areas of concern right now. And also, I haven't mentioned, but Max Christie, the rise of Max Christie has been great and has been providing the team much needed athleticism, much needed defense. Right now they rank, if I'm not mistaken, 3rd or 2nd in the last 4 or 5 games, which is insane to say compared to what they, even look back at the recordings, the Miami game where it's like they just gave up. So yeah, they look like they're locking in. They're locking up teams. They're locking up players. We saw Fox just have a horrible night, and then he did go off to have a good game. But in general, like, the defense has been there. Shout out to Gabe Vincent. He's now found his shot. He's shooting for the last, I think, the month of November and December. He's around 40% from 3-point land. So I don't know how that happened, because sometimes I see him. It's just crazy. But also his defense. So shout out to those guys. They have stepped up their game. And also, let's not forget D'Angelo Russell. Last game, after this is a recording after the game, but D'Lo had a 20-point outing. He was impactful from the game, and I don't think it's 20. I think it's more. I don't have the scoreboard, the box score with me, but he is impacting winning for the Lakers, and that's all you can do. So now the question is. And Rui Hachimura actually had the game-saving offensive rebound. So, I don't know. Now, I said all that, and you're wondering, so who are we going to trade? And that's where you can be, you can look at the moment and be just captured by it. You have to figure out what else do the Lakers need. Like, for instance, let's look at the market. Right now, I think we can have a couple of tiers here of what the market is. So, for instance, tier 1 for me would be Brandon Ingram and LaVine. Those are the categorically tier 1 players that the Lakers can go for. There's a lot of rumblings about De'Aaron Fox. Let's just avoid those conversations. I don't think the Lakers are in a position to go for Fox. I think as soon as he hits the market, if he ever does, we're gonna be outgunned to a certain degree, and only because I think the bidding, the whole bidding thing. But let's just assume categorically, if we go through the list, it will be De'Aaron Fox number 1, number 2 would be Ingram, number 3 would be LaVine. Those are kind of like the hierarchy. Then we have another tier, which would be the Cam Johnson, and then it's like there's a major drop off. Like Bruce Brown, you haven't seen him play. Jonas Valanciunas, that's like a tier 3, tier 4, or like bottom. Brogdon, again, bottom. Just when you look at like Vucevic, he's probably around the LaVine, a little bit below, like around the Cam Johnson kind of category in terms of impact. Walker Kessler, he's around the higher bench, where again he provides a level of impact, but again the high asking price. So when you look at the trade market, when you look at it completely, it's
all I can do right now is put on a brave face and go out there and be their leader.
It's over. We are screwed.
Kind of ass. I'm sorry, but it just is, because there's a lot of buyers. You have Grizzlies, you have OKC still can go and get any of these and outbid you, so they still have potential to do something. The New York Knicks, they have Mitchell Robinson that they can dangle around the trade market. You have Orlando Magic, with all the injuries that they've sustained, they may find something around the trade market to help them propel, to sustain until Paolo and Franz are back. And hopefully prayers up to Mo Wagner that he's okay. He, after the recording of this, he was supposedly carried off the court. So, but other than that, when you look at the market, like, everybody is looking to improve. Phoenix and Miami, they're still looking to see. That's the hottest rumor right now. Jimmy Butler supposedly going to Miami again. Sorry, Jimmy Butler going to the Suns. So when you look at it, it's like everybody's looking to improve. So if everybody's looking to improve, what are the Los Angeles Lakers going to do to improve? And no matter how I look at it, they have to give away. They have to fork over at least one first round pick. They have to. It's not like For a realistic trade and a realistic target that will propel them, yes, they need to fork over a pick. Now, what would propel them to a championship? De'Aaron Fox, that's one, but that's that's like 0.0001% of chance of happening. Then you got Brandon Ingram. He's injured now. He has a significant ankle injury. Unknown what the timetable is for his return. So I don't know. Can the Lakers sustain this level of play that they're doing and wait for Brandon Ingram to come back? That's the biggest issue for him right now. Is if you look at it, it's his availability. Same thing with LaVine. Right now, this season he's been healthy. He's been great, but the history hasn't been great when you most need him. Has he been available and whatnot? So going with the LaVine route, I think it's the best one out of them all, because it may not require you to fork over any draft assets. His contract, actually, people say that his contract is so bad, it's not in the CBA, it's anti-CBA, etc. What you have to sacrifice. Well, let's discuss what you have to sacrifice, because his price and Ingram's price are fairly similar. Ingram makes around 36 million. LaVine makes 43 million. So if you compare the both, it's like, well, you would rather go for Ingram. I agree, you would. The thing with Ingram is that he's an expiring. So that works into the benefit of the Lakers. That works into the benefit of the opposing team rather than the Pelicans, because Pelicans don't want to just let him walk for nothing. They want something in return. So, and now that they changed to clutch his representation, so now you have to look at it like, okay, what are we doing? Are we going and getting something in return for Ingram or not? So, and for the Bulls, it's kind of the opposite. It's a long-term contract. It has 2 or 3 years added. So the team trading for LaVine actually is taking the burden, the risk, and hey, why do I have to give you picks if I'm taking all the risk? So to a certain extent, it's more detailed, it's more nuanced than what I've just mentioned, but if you get the gist in terms of like what Ingram is for the market and what LaVine is for the market. For the Lakers, because they're asset short, meaning they only have 2 first-round picks that they can fork over. They only have one of them, the 2029, that they can protect. That's another thing. The 2031 is too far out for them to even protect. So they have if let's say Chicago says, yes, let's pull the trigger. Cool. Let's run that scenario. If Chicago says let's do it, give me D'Lo, give me Rui Hachimura, and give me Gabe Vincent. All right, all those 3 players for LaVine. Then what? Problem with the Lakers is that they depend on the health of Vando. They depend on the health of Christian Wood. And I'm not saying in terms of evaluating if they need a trade, because I think that's what fans kind of get confused. It's the fact that once you trade Rui, that's your forward depth. So now you're running into a situation where it's like you either run a LeBron AD, then an Austin Max LaVine. Is that really spell contender? You would have to wait for Vander to come in and see how that works. Then you have you switch out Max Christie for Vando, see if that makes sense. I think that's a way better roster than what we currently have. But then it's like you still need a backup. You need a true backup. You need something that would elevate this team to another level. And that's why I look at Kessler. It's like, okay, if you're gonna fork over picks, why not do it for a guy that's actually young? He's up and coming. His stats are true of a starter center. And his contract is only like $3 million. So you can just trade away JHS and get Kessler. And the thing is, if you start Kessler, you actually move LeBron to the 3. And we had this discussion with Tim, but it makes sense, because then you're putting LeBron in a situation where he doesn't need to defend in the low block, but he can defend in the perimeter, which actually could help him. He just needs to funnel into Kessler or AD. AD is more of a roamer at that point, so maybe that works out. JJ has had opposing comments in terms of he likes LeBron at the power forward, he likes AD at the center, so I'm not 100% sure that works out. So fit wise, LaVine provides a dynamic that people kind of dismiss, and it's the term of like a true 3-level scorer. And people are gonna say the defense part and whatnot. He's an athlete. He can chase. He's currently working as a POA defender at this point. So, just saying, like he in itself, like, sorry, it can work. It can work. It can help relieve some of the stress on the offensive end for Austin Reeves as well. Because think about it, Austin Reeves right now next to Max Christie, he has to be the guy that self-creates at this point. If you have another self-creating guard, it actually helps out Austin Reeves. It helps out LeBron. It helps out AD, because now that's another threat to the defense. That the defense have to kind of like lock in. So yeah, I'm for the LaVine trade, and if you are opposing to it, just comment below and say your piece. But that's where I'm at. The other part would be like Brandon Ingram. Brandon Ingram actually works out to be better fit, if I'm being honest, with what the Lakers have, and also it wouldn't cost you a Gabe Vincent. It wouldn't cost you more depth than what you require, because honestly, the skill set of Gabe Vincent is what the Lakers need. Again, he's a defensive guard that can go against fast guards. He can use his physicality on bigger wings, like his rebounding. Now he's like, it's just, there's a lot of things that Gabe Vincent does good. A lot of the small, the things that LeBron, that AD, that Austin can't do on a nightly basis, Gabe Vincent will do. Like, he'll be scrappy. He'll find ways to help the team, and you kind of need guys like that. So I'm not saying don't trade Gabe Vincent. I'm just saying be aware of the skill set that you're losing. And that's kind of like the nature of this. It's like, can you make a roster that is sustainable, sustains Lakers excellence and whatnot, that the whole front office is trying to say? And I think those two trades does that to a certain degree, because LaVine, you have him basically matching AD's contract. Brandon Ingram, if it doesn't work out, you still have flexibility. You can still let him walk. You gain a lot of your cap, like you can gain cap room from that move. Not a lot, but just saying, like, it's not entirely, it's not the end of the world. That's kind of like how I view it. And also, like, on the open market, maybe Ingram does go back to the Lakers at a lower cost contract, and then you have him paired with AD. So that could work. So yeah, those for me are the top two trades that can make this team a contender. Another thing is like, Lakers don't need to go for home run wins necessarily. They can trade around the margins. They can trade around like getting certain players that can actually help them do the dirty work. Like, let's say if they can get a Torrey Craig, let's say if they can get a Daniel Tice that can just give you 3 or 4 minutes of a backup center. Let's say if you can add to that trade, or to any of those two trades, let's say they can add, let's say if for LaVine, it costs you 4 or 5 players to send out, and you're like, can I construct a roster for just one player? Well, you don't necessarily have to do it for one player. Let's see if you can add draft capital and get an Ayo Dosunmu, or get somebody else and get more talent in this roster. So there's many ways, and I can spend hours just dissecting like what iteration, but at least the singular players, Brandon Ingram, LaVine, they are high up on the food chain in terms of turning this team into a true contender. How you go about it, you need health. Specifically, like, you really need health. You need Vander to come back as soon as possible. You need Christian Wood to come back as soon as possible, because honestly, Christian Wood's probably going to play forward minutes, subbing in for either LeBron or AD, or he can move LeBron to the 3. So there's avenues here to play with. And then there's the tier of role players, specific role players. Cam Johnson is the top target. I find him radioactive. And when I say radioactive, I'm not meaning in a bad way. I'm meaning that he is hot in the market right now. Everybody, Grizzlies, OKC, even the Pelicans, like Denver has had interest with Levine too. They have discussions with the Nets for Cam Johnson. You have Cleveland. Cam Johnson fits in a lot of teams. He's a true role player in the sense that he's a movement shooter. He does a lot of things on the offensive end that works out. On the defensive end, he's actually more mobile than Rui. I think all in all, he's just a better upgrade than Rui. I think that we can say that. You just have to see him play to see, like, he doesn't do physical basketball that well in terms of like using his physicality, using his physical attributes. That's more of a Rui thing, but even Rui doesn't use his physical attributes well. When it comes to rebounding, he doesn't rebound as well. But I'm just knick-knacking on certain things. In all essence, I think he is in the tier 2 category. He is a high level role player. Does he fit on the Lakers? Of course he does. If you sub him in for Rui, yep. Is it difficult to trade for him? Yes, but not quite. You could make a trade out where you're sending enough. And also the fact is, it's like you may need a third team, but that's kind of like for any trade out there. Like, even if you do a Levine trade, you're probably going to need a third team. If you do a Brandon Ingram, you're going to need a third team. Like, in this CBA, you're generally going to need a third team. So the level of difficulty isn't so much where it's like, oh man, we can't do it because of the CBA. No, it's actually opposite. You can do it. So it's just a matter of being creative. Be creative. But that's kind of like where I stand on that. That's my opinion. Other than Cam Johnson, Bruce Brown, he's a question mark. He's unknown. I think if he's healthy and he provides what he provided in Denver, what he provided at a certain point in, as a pacer, I can see the fit, especially next to Austin Reeves. That would be great. But at $23 million, he's just making a lot of money. And you're requiring like 2 to 3 players just to get to that money. So I'm not 100% sure he's even that, like, I'm not even sure if he's worth it. That's the problem. And because of the injury, he hasn't played in, I don't know if he's going to play for the rest of this year. He's probably going to play for next year, for 2025. So I don't know. Other than that, Dorian Finney-Smith, he's an interesting $14 million role player. And many teams are going to be asking for him because he does fit a need. But with the Lakers, it's interesting because at that point, I would rather keep Rui. Just saying. This notion that you can get Dorian Finney-Smith and Cam Johnson, I'm not a fan of it. I'll be honest, I'm not a fan of it. I'm not a fan of seeing Austin, Cam Johnson, Dorian Finney-Smith, LeBron, AD. Like, yeah, that looks like a 2K lineup. Could be fun to watch, I guess. But in terms of just who's guarding the perimeter player, who's guarding the fast guards, Austin Reeves would be in hell at that point. And I don't know, it doesn't look balanced in my opinion. And also the fact that Dorian Finney-Smith hasn't played the 3 in a minute. Most of his minutes are logged as a 4. He's more of a power forward. And LeBron, in this stage of his career, he's more of a power forward as well. So it's like you have 2 players that they can get beat as well. It's like, for what the Lakers want to do, and here's the reality: for what the Lakers want to do, if they want to do switching, if they want to do playing drop or whatever, they still need a center. They still need a versatile 3-and-D wing, and those kind of go into like the Ingram, that goes into the Cam Johnson category, not necessarily DFS. I can see DFS coming off the bench actually. So Dorian Finney-Smith is interesting. That package in of itself, I'm not 100% sure if I'm sold on it. Also, the amount of draft compensation that would be required, I'm not 100% sure I'm even willing to even consider it. But it's an option. I wouldn't be mad if the Lakers did it. Other than that, you have Charlotte, Nick Richards, Caleb Martin. I mean, you have the Sixers, who are still, they don't look good. It doesn't look good, but I don't know if they're gonna tank or not. They have got a lot of good role players with a lot of good contracts that could help the Lakers, but then we're going through the marginal moves, and that's where I have a problem, because I don't think making a marginal move is gonna help the Lakers. That's where I'm at right now. You kind of need a athlete, somebody, and I say athlete, it's just look at how Max Christie kind of as a starter has flourished in the past 3 games. And it's all because, like, it's not only the matchups, but it's also like it takes a lot of the pressure off Austin Reeves to do both, to do both ends of the forwards. Like, excuse me, sorry, I had to sneeze. But it takes away from Austin Reeves' duties on the defensive end to guard the best player on the opposing side. Giving that duty to Max Christie actually worked out. Another thing here is, like, if you think about it, if the goal is to contend, if the goal is to be a championship team, then you have to go for the home run win. And I feel the hesitancy of the front office is to make a Russell Westbrook mistake again. I think once they did that all-in move, they were like, we miss KCP, we miss Kuzma, we miss Caruso. And yeah, they made a mistake. But because of that issue, that shouldn't deter them from making a move. If anything, if they're a competent front office, they should learn from their mistakes. They should understand and evaluate the players that are coming in. And not only evaluate them, but also, like, understand, hey, what does the fit mean on this team? If we're going against, let's say, like, that's the part that's curious about the Lakers. What is it that you want to run? What is it that you want to do? Do you want to be an athletic? Do you want to have a team that has an athletic backcourt, or do you want a team that just maximizes like AD or maximizes LeBron, or just you want to see if you can find better role players that they can fit a role on this team? And that's why the fan base in itself has Vucevic for the Lakers, has Nikola Jonas Valanciunas, has like all these trade scenarios out there on the wazoo, like just crazy. And I get it, I understand, but at the same time, it's like, what are you building towards? A Jonas Valanciunas trade doesn't really do shit. Doesn't do it just helps you for the regular season. It doesn't really help you postseason. And for people saying, well, it helps you with the Jokic matchups and all that, he dropped 50 on the dude. Like, I'm not gonna lie. Like, I get it. He's just a backup big. And it's like, you're putting assets into backup bigs, backup guys. And it's like, what about your starting 5? Like, that's my problem. Like, what about your starting 5? Like, a Cam Johnson, he's gonna start. Brandon Ingram, he's gonna start. Levine, he's gonna start. I want starters on this team. I get the whole depth, the whole analysis. I understand that, but you gotta hope and pray that Vandal comes back at some point. You have to hope and pray Christian Wood comes back. You have to hope that Hayes comes back, because if you're not gonna make a trade for a center and you're just gonna focus on wings or guards, I get it, but at the same time, like you kind of have to pull the trigger at some point, because if you continue this trend where you're not really doing anything and you're just waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting, you're just putting yourself in a position where it's like, do we really need a trade? But anyway, that's all I have right now. The front office has to make a decision. I think that's the biggest thing, and I think they should go for the Levine, for the Ingrams, go for the home run move. The train of thought of going for Russell Westbrook wasn't wrong. That wasn't wrong. The thing that was wrong was Westbrook himself. That's the thing that they have to evaluate. They saw the skill set. They saw a need for the team to have a certain skill set, and they over-evaluated, and they didn't see, like, they didn't see the guy for what he was at the time, because the same guy that the Lakers got is the same guy the Wizards had. The thing is, he needed unlimited usage. He needed a lot of the ball to command, and it's just a matter of talent and valuation of the team. They have to know what type of talent they're going for. They have to know what type of players they're going for. They can't just go blindly by name, or, oh, in this night, the Lakers, he scored 30 against us, he has to be good. Like, they can't do that. They have to be smarter than that. Hopefully JJ does help them, or somebody helps him, because yeah, there's certain players like Jonas that LeBron had in his list, and I just don't like the fit. I just don't like the fit about Jonas at all. And maybe in the offseason that was the target, but now that he's making the money that he's making, the assets that you have to invest, I don't know if that's the move, but who knows. But anyway, until the next one, take care, good night, and if you like this video, like, share, and subscribe, and have a good weekend, have a good holidays, everybody, and take care. And yeah, if anything, if you have any comments, post them below, or see us on playback. We will be basically every Laker game we host a watch party on playback. Doesn't cost you anything. If you have League Pass, you can actually watch with us the games on League Pass. So yeah, and you can have that conversation, and if you disagree completely with me, just give me a shout out. Later, guys. See ya.